and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am. Hello there everyone, and welcome to this video with me today. So we have a little bit of change of scenery here because the topic I will talk about today is a very important major update that I've actually been preparing for quite a few weeks now. And because it's not an easy subject and it might overwhelm a few people, I wanted to bring in more love. So I kind of am recording in my beloved spot, or in my beloved corner today, which is, as you can see, the altar in the back. And I wanted to also display this sacred or divine feminine rising and cosmic rays, higher cosmic rays vortex, which you can probably see it's too shiny, it's too bright, but it's a beautiful gift from a friend. We did a little bit of the art exchange, so I really wanted to bring through this loving sacred space, because the first thing I want to say before we get much deeper into today's video is that it's whatever we do right now at these very crucial times requires us to prepare the sacred space. Whatever we do, even if it's just tarot cards, even if it's just whatever it is, we have to apply the wisdom of knowing how to set sacred space, because there's so much energetic distortion, infiltration, and you will see what I'm going to talk about today, that it's becoming more and more important for us to daily invoke the intentions within the light. So I also want to say that today with us we have my master Ascension crystal, which is this beautiful, it's kind of like, you know, stairway to heaven. So that's here with us. And for divine protection also, because it's such an intense topic, a friend who made me this beautiful cosmic gateway, she also made me Anubis, as you know, this little mini statue. It's quite fragile, but it's strong nonetheless. So thank you. I really wanted to bring in this energy as well. You can't see all the items displayed. But today's topic, I will talk about, I made notes because there's just so much to say. Like I said, I was preparing for this for weeks. I was just waiting for the ripening, as you know, of divine timing and certain things coming together. So sometimes, you know, there was something and I already wanted to record, but the guidance was no, or I was too tired to do it because so much energy has been coming through lately. And I was just really, really going patiently and, you know, with compassion towards this revelation or liberation, this topic that it's quite challenging, you know, because those of us who talk about these things, as you know, or if you don't know, we're being quite exposed. So please realize with your loving awareness that whatever I'm going to be talking about today takes a lot of courage, a lot of strength, and self-empowerment, with strong dedication to this work, because I wouldn't be doing this if only my personal reality mattered to me, nothing else. Because the reason why I've been doing this diligently, you know, this devotedly with such diligence for so many years, is because I care so much. I love so much the light and humanity, and of course life on this beautiful planet. And I always say that the love we have for spirit needs to equate the love we have for this planet, because otherwise we're not truly bringing ourselves to the level of what we call the Christed path, the Christed human heart. And certain people would preferably maybe not like to talk about these things that I'm going to reveal today, because it's just much easier or much lighter, quote unquote, to focus only on the light. Although on my path as a volunteer soul who's here on a mission, and a star mission of human integration and polarity integration on this planet, I have to bring up things and topics that perhaps in many people would also invoke fear still. And I want to talk about this, what so many of us have been going through for quite a while now, because when I shared my own example just recently on my pages online, people started to respond. And I was preparing and making notes, this time on my phone, because it was more handy to write on the phone than just, you know, to write a notebook, because I don't have my notebook always with me, and I usually have my phone with me. You know, sometimes it's off, but still, you know, the notebook was available. So I actually really wanted to bring through everything that's truly important for this time. So I'm just going to go through the notes. But first I want to say even when you just watch this video, create a sacred space for yourself, because it is so important. Because whatever I'm going to be addressing, it will invite a lot of the presence. And the main topic today is that when you start to really shine brightly, when you start to do a work of light within your light beingness, within your luminosity, that requires you to go beyond certain steps of what feels comfortable, and you will start sharing things in a more exposed kind of level, you will see your light, because it will start to shine so brightly, will attract many, and attention of what I call the dark intentions as well. And sometimes people say, well, that doesn't exist, it's only in your mind, or it's only an illusion, or it's only exists if you focus on it. That's not really true, because the nature of reality, and later I'll read you this quote I have here if I can find it. Oh, I have it now. It's from Osho. And he says, yoga means to encounter reality as it is. So in this video, I want to take all the blind spots, from whoever, well, everyone needs to take them off by themselves. But it's really important in this path of spirit initiation, if you want to become an illuminous light, you have to face everything as it is. So the first thing I want to say is that so much is happening now, and there's this huge integration wave of light, calling in the dark and the darker aspects as well. That's why the attention has been on so many of us who've been doing this for years, because it started to liberate humanity in a way that it hasn't been done before. So since 2018 began, if you've noticed, there was a huge wave of topics and themes that weren't always just pleasant, weren't just love and light. And even when we say the words love and light, we have to know we have to speak them with conscious intention. Because when you're just, like randomly saying it, but you're not really integrating and embodying those words, you're just going to become a hindrance that works as just like another program in your subconscious. So you're just programming yourself with another system of beliefs. So there's so many systems of beliefs, and yet what's happening right now in many cases, it's not related only to what we believe about our reality, but actually what is truly taking place on our planet. Because as you know, this planet was an experiment, how much light and dark can integrate. And the things that were not completed in other star systems were set out to be complete on this planet. And many key players came here to do this work of resolution and finally do the integration work. So since 2018, a lot of topics have started to come up. If you remember, the first update I did in 2018 was about artificial intelligence. How do we deal with it? How do we recognize it? How do we integrate a natural organic ascension pathway? So it's all intensifying, right? These are not very light topics for many people who, let's say, they say, I don't want to listen about this. It overwhelms me, and that's okay. Because to be overwhelmed means you're not yet energetically able to descend so much into the aspects that would be, let's say, too much for you in this moment. So you have to go back a little more to just, applying and integrating more light quotient. Then you go back to revisit those topics, which eventually every spirit being, every being will have to undergo on the path of self-mastery. Remember, I always give you one same story example, which is Buddha underneath his enlightenment tree, when all those demonic forces, all these shadow aspects start to face him and wanting to engulf him. And all he is just this luminous presence, and says, no, I'm in union, I'm in unity. I know this cosmic union, I'm just in this space, and that's all there is. Sorry, because I'm scratching a bit, but I feel constantly, being washed over by this tingles of light beings being here with me. Hello. So this wave currently has reached a certain apex point, and in my own experience, which was endured for about a few weeks, and I'll talk about my experience as well when we get to it. And I'm going to share some of the feedback from other people today as well. We're going to read some oracles too. But first, I really want to present this topic from a more higher perspective, so that the higher perspectives we gain will have a chance to integrate through our human compassionate heart. Sometimes people talk about only the higher perspective, which again, it's not enough. We have to integrate the human compassion. So I was guided to share this because so many things came together, and one thing after another pinpointed that it's time to share, it's time to talk about this. Although I talked about this before. If you remember, when I was still a newbie, it was many years back when I just started this, And my channel, I had a video about light workers and experiences of abuse and attacks. And so many people liked that video. And so many people, even back then, reported that they're having issues and what they perceive as to be psychic attack. And it's still continuing. It's just on a whole new level. And this is what we'll be addressing in this video. So it's kind of like its anniversary about that. So I was guided to share because the bigger picture is starting to synthesize here. And this time actually requires intense courage, a truthfulness, because this integrity, the highest integrity that we are asked to align with, it's not just keeping ourselves in silent mode and not speaking up. See, this vortex calls for the divine feminine rising, which is the power of this voice of the feminine, which has been suppressed for quite a while. And it's an essence. I talk about not gender, but an essence of the feminine. So when we come to certain things that keep repeating, they won't go away. And at least in my world, things don't go away before I integrate and share everything. And when I share, it's like a release happens, and then the new way of what I need to integrate and share comes next. So this was weeks in progress, but acknowledging this, acknowledging what's occurring, of course, through divine neutrality, but also human reality, which is reality as it is. That's true yoga. It's not like saying, well, just ignore it, it's not happening, because if you ignore it, it's going to go away. That's literally ignorance is bliss, which we all know what it means, and it doesn't make things go away. Because when you, as a human, you develop your personal self-mastery, you have to know that your self-mastery will never just be personal, maybe for a short while. But the moment you master a certain requirement in your path, it will already be asked to be utilized for greater good. Otherwise, you haven't mastered anything. It will already be called into integration of the whole. So let's say certain beings, we work first on ourselves, on our own personal things and patterns and inner shadow integration. Then when you do that, you're going to start to work with other people. You're going to start to work with the collective, with the planetary energies, higher and higher states of how you can assist. So in that way, when this apex and certain things started to come out, and I was observing literally the timeline of these sharings, and then my own experience was like, yes, this is really something that's coming up to be addressed, and it's time these topics are now addressed. Okay, this apex point, the bigger picture about it has to come into resolution. And my focus has always been on the people who want to do the work, because there's people who say, not for me, and that's okay. It just means that it's there for people who are ready now to, perhaps, they're having their own experience, and I'll share at the end the feedback from others. But it's not about reacting to it. It's not even about responding to it, but it's addressing it within the truth of the light. And only acknowledging it and sharing about it will truly bring things into culmination. So it's very important for us to bless everything that's happening, also to bless everyone, not just people who, let's say, are having a challenging experience, even the challengers or the seemingly opposing forces. Because darkness, like I have written here, can only be integrated when it's seen and addressed for what it is without ignorance, which means facing it head on. And this is what fearlessness means. And a lot of people understand fear and they think they've integrated it, but then a new wave comes. It's like, what? I've already done this. Well, why is this still happening to me? Not necessarily because you have a belief system that you still need to resolve or clear, but it's because you are now, with your own knowledge and deepened insight, ready to assist the bigger picture or assist other people, assist the whole. Which is definitely true for people who are volunteer souls, because we're here to assist the masses now moving through waves of ascension integration, which is not implementing, our own reality and projecting it onto others, but giving the tools and basically inner technologies of the light body when it merges with the physical body, and how that can transform us. And every single response we're now creating differently than perhaps before, when a part of you still lived in fear, or other parts of you. So people might say, well, we've done that, why is it coming back? Or why is it not happening at such immense levels? Is because there are always different levels of integration. They have to deal with cycles of creation, they have to deal with cycles of humanity, where humanity is currently. And you might say, well, why is it happening again? Because it's not really happening again, it's it's waves or cycles within cycles. So one little tiny cycle completes is still revolving around a larger cycle. So, like I said, we're moving from personal shadow work to assisting that integration into working with the collective and planetary, stellar universal levels. That's all part of this work. I recently, just before I shared this video, I actually encountered Facebook Live videos from one of my favorite authors, Patricia Corey. She is awesome. She rocks. She totally rocks. Recently, I sent her my feedback on her work and her books, which I shared with all of you as well. And she was so impressed. She actually shared it with people on Facebook. So I was so delighted. I just love her work. I love her integrity. And just before I wanted to share this video, I see those live videos, and she was talking about certain things that need to be addressed as a part of the topic I'm sharing today. And she was talking about this idea of sending entities into the light and the relationship between an entity and individual. And this is something I want to talk about first before we go deeper into the aspects of how the controls or certain gripping systems of what we call the dark. Some people might say it's just what it is. Yes, whatever you call it. But it's just that which has not yet been immersed into a state of divine love, into a state of its natural, luminous, bright source self. So this idea of sending entities into the light, she shared about, do we have the right to do this and determine, and say, well, I have this power to send you or to liberate you or send you to the light? Because no one in this world is actually responsible for another being or for an entity, even when we think we're healers or when we're doing work of service. Because in truth, we don't have the right to determine what goes, and how, and which light and how. It's so it's so non-tangible, the way we talk about these things. So she said, instead, ask for anything to go towards its highest needed expression in its current evolutionary path, so that it's for its highest good. Because we don't, wave our wand and say, just go to light, I free you, or I liberate you, like we're some sort of exorcist. And a lot of times we're going to get into this ego mode. Okay, I've done this work on myself. I can now start, applying this magic to other people. We really can't do that because of the nature of sovereignty and because how involved we can get in certain things that truly are not ours to get involved in the first place. So we need to be asked to assist. We need to be invited. And what I've, been shared, what Spirit has said to me, even when we say sometimes, where I'm going to advise you into this, or I'm going to recommend this to you, or people say this would be good for you to know, or you should know this, or you should go there. Even when we speak things like that, we can't do that, because again, we're implying that our integrity is higher than someone else's integrity and their own path and knowing. So we can't advise others to go and act, with their experiences, because everyone has to go through their own unique experience integration, and we have to be humble, not opinionated and smart for others, because then we're truly not smart. We're playing out these egomaniacs who think, okay, I have an answer for you, which really don't. What also she mentioned in the video, something I need to pop up here as well, because it kind of struck a chord, is that she was talking about, in particular, I think, in CERN, what's happening in CERN. And she said many portals are being opened to the lower astral now, and much disharmonious information is coming through because of it. That's why perhaps a lot of people are experiencing tremendous pressures or oppressions from the called dark side. Okay. Let's laugh about it a bit, because I don't want everyone to take this video too seriously. I just want to express it realistically, but not seriously. That's the whole point, and with a lot of love. But in truth, what's happening is, if you're noticing within your own realm that a lot is happening that you perceive, well, I've come to a certain light, I've did this work, why is this happening? And I remember years back, we were reading a book from Saint Germain, Mastering Alchemy. I don't know what it was about, but he was clearly saying that even when you master yourself, you're still going to feel the oppression, the pushing of the external world, the world that's still in turmoil. And human compassion does not mean now you're so neutral, you don't care about anything, all you care about is your own life. Because if I did that, I wouldn't be showing up here with these very challenging topics, which you'll see when we get to the more challenging parts. I want to prepare the ground first. So these are times of such great discernment, because yes, much more is happening, because so much light has been released on the planet, and now everything that's been lurking behind, the hidden, the unseen, is now coming up. And this is the point where I need to mention Barbara Hand-Clow's work. She was sharing about, I think it was in one of the interviews and even in her books, she said, well, all these programs of the hidden ones, or, you can call it the elite, you can call it whatever you want, but they all function through the basic program of secrecy. So when you don't know about things, you don't know that it has the power to manipulate you. So this is why in this video, I also will talk about certain things, how this operates, how the dark still controls, manipulates, spreads falsehood around, and especially in the light communities, because it's not all about, okay, the people that are unaware. Okay, now we've become, we've increased so much the light quotient, and now we've become a liability. And that's why so many beautiful souls now, including myself, we're experiencing tremendous harassment and even targeted attacks and all of that. So this was the main point of my video. And I know I'm being watched because I have been for quite a while now. So hello, whoever is watching, I really don't care. In spite of all the threats and everything I've experienced, I want to say that we have to start seeing, because that's the problem with secrecy, is you don't know these things are true. So you don't want to see, it's too overwhelming, I don't want to deal with that. But the moment you see it, it loses its grip, it loses its power. So we have to see beyond and through, or be often, when people are often mesmerized by things of the light, wow, this new age sending to the white light. Instead, it's important for us to ask within the light of the highest intention. And I always say within the light of unity, the unity consciousness. Everything you're calling, invoking in your sacred space, never forget, always that which serves the law of unity consciousness, because that's your highest shield, it's highest aspect of divine protection. Someone then, during those videos, was commenting on the dark disrupting the light, and those of us who want to serve Ascension. Basically, I guess everyone's experiencing this. So those who are in a mission to help, and I really loved it because she said, well, the hell with it, She said, well, I've been off Facebook, I've been banned for quite a lot of time, and everyone who's been doing amazing work has experienced some form or degree of abuse and harassment. She said, well, even when we're public, like a lot of us are, we're not supposed to be afraid, because when your light is so bright, you will always attract attention. So you either do your purpose or you don't. And we all know that the power of spirit, life force that works through you, is stronger than your ego telling you, oh, I don't want to do that because then I'll get kicked in the butt or whatever. It's not about that. So again, yoga is to encounter reality as it is and to live your reality the way you're meant to, without thinking something can prevent it or stop it from existing, or So it's time to raise awareness, to not ignore and be ignorant of what is truly happening. And this is kind of like the more challenging part of the video begins here. So this, when I've talked about in the past about attacks on light workers and people who had that experience, they understood that. But there's sometimes people who have not had that experience and do not understand, and they kind of judge the whole thing, and they will say, well, you should be more positive, or they're going to say, well, you created this, you created those beings. I get so appalled when I hear things like that. And I've witnessed a lot of people who've actually, they're kind of rebelliously saying no to these falsehoods that say, well, everything you've created, because there is a difference between the reality you're creating within yourself and that which is its own reality, but it somehow wants to penetrate or infiltrate your space. And this is when what those of us who are kind of being targeted are experiencing. So who is experiencing this? I'm going to talk about today in this video, and why these people are being targeted. So those that are not a part of this experience, or yet, maybe they're going to start to do their own work of light, and they're going to see. And that's when you have your own experience. You say, now I understand. And even then you can't understand, because basically we can never understand. Our experiences will always be unique, and we're still going to have an intimate relationship. Our own vulnerable self will be involved the way no one else is, because again, it's universal, and yet it's so unique for what's happening for us. So sometimes people are saying, well, we're talking about love, and we're saying love all souls, right? So why don't you love the dark souls. But then when you get to the essence of it, the soul in its essence form is not dark. The soul is pure light. That's the fact that people mistaken, and I get really agitated because people who lack knowledge start to spread certain things which are coming from a lack of knowledge, which is, again, it's just spreading more misinformation. So don't start sharing things if you're not really sure what it's about, because yes, in truth, all souls are of love, but what's happening and what we're experiencing in our world is not a result of the soul essence. Or, like Sadhguru would say, well, we say everything is a part of the divine plan. Well, not true. It's a lot of the creations are part of human ego, and what it has distortedly created. So not all expressions through human beings are of soul essence. Many are of soul fragments. So these fragments that have been experiencing separation from source, that know only darkness, that know only control because they operate through fear, that's what they know. So people would say, why don't you love them as souls? Well, we have to first understand, well, what are we really relating to here? Am I relating to another being of light? Because when I am, I'm feeling the love. Because when you're going to see yourself. If you are a part of any harassment or attack, it doesn't feel pleasant, right? It doesn't feel full of love and joy. It's not soulful. It feels very frustrating, and it feels even hateful. The words I've recently been thrown at, they're very vulgar, full of profanity. And sorry, this is not how light expresses itself. I mean, I'm really sorry to say that. So remember, years back, when I first started going deeper into the subject, I read Selvar Kelly's book, and I recommended his second book, The Soul Integration, to many of you throughout the years, because it's just so good, because it doesn't just talk about unity. It also addresses the fact of the knowledge how souls fragment, how soul fragmentation takes place, because you need to have knowledge of that too. And recently, just Spirit told me, said, you don't know, but a lot of people doesn't know, but there's like piles and piles, in the spirit libraries. There's just how you master the knowledge of just how soul fragments. It's like its own sector, like everything is. So we're not supposed to say we know something if we haven't yet gone through our initiation on our soul journey. So his book spoke a lot about, it was the first one, I think. It was 2012 and Earth changes, and it was about beings going crazy at this time because the cosmic energy would just intensify. It's outburst into the planetary nature and the planetary sphere of existence. So there's a difference between soul essence people and people who still have a lot of fragmentation in their soul awareness. It's not the same as soul essence, because you have to understand this as its basic knowledge. So when we talk about soul essence is pure light, and when you embody this, you become an angelic human. So soul essence, you will recognize this the individuals who embody soul essence are always drawn to light, to beauty, to sound, music, art, healing, while fragments will only seek drama, distortion, lies, falsehoods. It's just, gossiping. All these energies are expressions of the lower. So in this planet, there is one thing we call, well, there's perhaps the rising of the mental illness. And I know nowadays, who speaks about this a lot? Someone who's gone through a lot. Russell Brand, he speaks a lot about that. The challenges of the human psyche and mental illness. And a lot of people are now experiencing this, that they're feeling unwell, plus a lot of addictions. We've never been as addicted as we are now. So the funny thing was that when we meditated on this topic, and it was again this book of Saint Germain, I said, let's randomly open it, and guess where it opened? It was exactly this mental illness. And when you're ill in your soul, because the soul wants to unify, and these fragments are making it impossible, and yet there's now another, because there's several layers of what we call mental issues or mental illness. In one other aspect, there is, I just watched a video today which is called How a Shaman Sees in a Mental, and What He Sees in a Mental Hospital. because a lot of these people are actually healers that want to be born. So in their culture and shamanic tradition, they helped them to integrate these higher beings that, you know, want to come through them and want to be part of their healing essence. While we in the Western world, we lock them up, we put a straitjacket on them, we medicate them, and just cause a further separation and fragmentation. So there's a huge problem now with mental illness because it's not being addressed for what it is. And recently also I saw a video on Facebook, it was just commercial video. It's like now these stories are kind of being shared. And it was about someone who said, well, depression is not what we call it to be. Depression is very much socially related because it's about the lifestyle, the way we live, because we're so separate from each other. And he shared his own example and the beauty, you know, what happens when someone who was supposedly depressed was, let's say, was given an animal or given into a loving environment, everything changed. And a lot of these things we have distorted beliefs about, and we don't want to address. So everything that feels, it's too much, we don't understand it, let's put it away. We deal with these things the same way we deal with our own shadow aspects. So you don't like something or something overwhelms you, say, I'm just going to put it there in this box instead of addressing it. And that's why I'm calling this the integration of dark into light. So now I want to start talking about this harassment, about this intense pressure that is now put on many light beings, on many light, I don't like to use the term light workers, but okay, it's just for the people who like that word. This, what's happening now, as I was viewing at it from the higher perspective, I could almost see these these reluctant or rebellious souls were like like they were gripping on, and I could see almost like this whole grip. And with when I meditated, I got the word about, in my own example and what's happening, I got the word arguments, argumentative. And basically, because we've already stepped into light so much, they want to create arguments in our own world so that it slowly starts to fragment our reality. So, you know, it kind of like plan goes in waves. So one of their plans doesn't come out, let's go to plan B, you know, then plan C. And it's kind of like, it has its own dance, and it's a game in truth, okay? So it's not truly when it happens to each and every one of us individually, but it's not a personal thing. Spirit said it is a soul group thing because it is also about you coming together as a group. And our groups have already been formulated. This was the guidance coming through. And I've seen this myself because for the first few weeks, I wanted to just integrate and deal with this myself. I was non-responsive to what was happening. I was just observing. I was really seeing, and it just didn't stop. It just remained. I was like, okay, let me see where this is leading. And then one day, it was like, when I wake up, I just knew you have to share. It was very obvious. It was like, you have to share now. Now is the time. And then I put a post online and people started to respond, and I didn't know so many people. And on my Instagram and Facebook, people were saying, wow, you know, I'm experiencing attacks, or their children are experiencing attacks. Because the problem now is that anyone can be attacked, even if you're the most remote person like me here in the Alps, in the middle of nowhere. Everyone now, because we're part of this online world, everyone can be harassed. That's a disadvantage of the online world. So a lot of the things are public. You can't really have, if you want to have a certain page, you can't have it, you know, in your privacy unless it has a certain structure to it. So in a way, it's very limiting. And if you've been noticing the development of Facebook, in the beginning, you could have your settings and you could say, well, no one can message me or things like that. Then later, they just became unavailable. That way, everyone was able to message you. Everyone was able to send you things. Everyone was able to, I don't know. It was just less and less protection. And there's a reason behind this, okay? Because we've unraveled, we've revealed so much. Now they started to press on us through these things. So again, I want to say that the group thing means that we're stronger when this is shared, when we share, when we express ourselves. And the moment I got guidance to share about this, and I hope you're gonna bear with me because it's gonna be quite a long video. This is more of a session than just a video about information. This is a session here, which is a heart-to-heart session with our group. So the group thing means that when we start connecting instead of removing from each other, because we've become very strong individuals now. Those of you who've done the inner work, you've become a very strong, powerful individual. But I'm sorry, you're not as powerful when we're powerful when we're together, when we are in union together, when we hold hands, when even just one aspect kind of withdraws and says, "Oh, I don't trust, I don't believe, I don't know what's true," then it starts to kind of fragment the whole picture. That's why this is so important. Sticking together, being together as a group. And I actually was overwhelmed with the level of light and love I received from people when I shared about what's happening, and how many people were reporting they're experiencing at least some form of abuse in their life right now. And a lot of them said it was never that intense. So, amping up, talking about intensifying and reaching its culmination point. So, I want to address everything. That's why I have my phone here. Someone said in a comment that belief systems could be a part of this. So, if we have a belief about this and it's happening to us, I have to say, well, of course, when you function at the degree of beliefs, you're going to attract beliefs. You're going to attract the affirmation of your belief. Yes. When you are still working on your own self mastery, when you're still working in your self empowerment, when you still reside in the realm of beliefs. Recently, some send me a beautiful structure of moving from beliefs, these projections, into pure knowledge, pure wisdom. And I'm going to share with you that as well. But I want to explain this, why it's not the same once you're already an awake one, once you're an aware one, once you're an ascended one, an illumined one, because you see reality as it is, but you're still a part of it. You don't ascend and go somewhere. You're ascended on earth. So you're still a part. Your reality becomes embedded in a much larger sense of expanded reality. So this is not just, oh, I care about me, I'm cool, I'm protected, I'm safe, my family, my children, whatever. So I don't care what happens in the bigger world. Let them do their own thing. If we lived like that, sorry, we'd be way, way far behind, okay? That's the thing. So I want to explain that there's a difference in something that when people say everything that happens to you, you create it. Yes, on a higher level, our souls are creating all of this. So the integration of dark and the light would, as the resolution of polarities will play out as it needs to, as a part of divine plan. However, when something is, let's say you are a being who's fully living your life in a peaceful resolution and light and love, but there's oppression coming and you get attacked, you're not getting attacked because you have a belief about being attacked. You're simply, unless you do, but let's say you don't. And in that case, it's happening because you're obviously doing good work, and there's the reality that's a part of your reality. Let's say it's not your personal experience. You don't feel these energies within yourself, but it's still an external reality. And because a lot of volunteer souls have come here, we've came with imprints, we needed those experiences, we came to assist. And you can't assist without things not happening to you, because you're just living in your peaceful little world and you don't care about the rest. So again, I mentioned the Saint Germain's quote about things in the external world still pushing through. And this is about our reality versus that which tries to forcefully penetrate our reality. And you have to see it's not mine. It can't infiltrate my personal space. And I need to do the proper protection, which you do, and energetically will be protected, but physically certain aspects will still need to play out, and there's a reason for that. So some beings volunteered for this experience to help others who are still in that grip of the experience. So we're guided, and it's much easier to just live in our own space and do nothing and just create our personal reality and manifest miracles, whatever. But we volunteer souls, we assist the whole. That's why we're going out. When Edward Snowden got his information, he didn't say, well, I'm just going to keep it for myself. What that brave soul did at that time, he knew his life's going to be in danger. He knew his life will never be the same again. And yet he chose through integrity, and he was volunteering for that work because someone had to do it. And that someone in this life was him. So again, I want to say, when we talk about things like beliefs, don't generalize things, because you don't know what the person and what their level is, because there's levels and levels and layers of consciousness, and we can't project our own reality or what we resonate with others. So that was my response to someone who talked about beliefs. But it's important for us not to just have, now everyone's saying unity, well, I'm saying unity too, but it's about how soul essence fragments, as it said before, when it enters the world of created duality, because it's still on our planet. So when you say, well, in my world there's only light, that means you're excluding yourself from the rest, and you're not living your mission. You're being like the, what's that animal, puts the head in the sand? Ostrich, yeah, ostrich. I couldn't find an English word in my current vocabulary. So when this world of duality was created, you know, for us to integrated, like I said before, certain beings were so involved with it, they were so in it that they couldn't move through. And that's why volunteer souls came, because they said, well, these guys are in this grip so tightly, we need to come in and we need to bring a new, fresh energy that would help to liberate that. But that doesn't mean you liberate by, you know, by doing it for someone else, because we really can't do that. So it's not just light, but also light and the shadow and its integration in their dance and their play. So that's why I resonate with authors who can go as deep as in this polarity integration, such as Salva Kelly, Barbara Marciniak, Barbara Handclough, Patricia Corey, you know, these beautiful souls. So in truth of how we can really assist is that we can only do our own integration. We can't literally, you know, help someone. You know, even when you're a guide, you can't help. You are a beacon who helps to illuminate the pathway onwards, or, you know, for its highest intention and expression of that being. An example that I got recently about this was, you know, it was shared in the Prism of Lyra book, this disco ball with its fragments. You know, this is how the soul fragmentation began, from one luminous ball into many, many pieces that still belong to the whole, but they have their own play now. So when I saw, when you do your own integration work, it's almost like you're being sucked back into this beautiful disco ball, or this glowing ball, and it feels like the part comes back in and it fuses itself with the whole and starts to pull those other aspects back too. That's the visual I was getting. So we focus on our own integration, which automatically draws this light back inwards into fusion. So when you focus on this for yourself and then sharing it the way you're guided to share in your own specific life's path and direction, then you're doing the best. Sometimes people will say, well, just send people angels and that's enough. Is really sending angels enough? If you feel that's enough, then that's enough for you. Again, it's very personal where you are, how you can assist, how can you be in that alignment without being too overwhelmed. Because I also, when sometimes things are too intense, I can't be there for everyone, or I can't share certain things if I feel I'm not safe right now. I first need to create a sacred space and strength and courage enough so that I can, you know, then share this with a bigger group. So what we need to know is that we have our own angelic higher self responsibility through our embodiment. So if we always act it out, well, something is bad, I'm just going to send it angels, or just send it light, just send it prayer. But sometimes as humans, we're also going to be, like I said here, with the responsibility through embodiment, we're going to be called to participate in our own human way, through human compassion, through human grace. Not just love light, thank you, bye, I'm on to the next thing. um, Only focusing on what the spiritual hierarchy will do, invoking the spiritual divine, I don't know, divine intervention even. Divine intervention is always happening and coming through us, through certain things. Where the life force will go, but then how we will respond and do our own part in the integration work, then that's how it's going to unfold. So just focusing on the spiritual part and the angels or the spiritual hierarchy denies our human part of the experience and why we're truly here now. What's the work we have to do? So again, I want to go back to cycles of integration, which is, why are these things happening? And sometimes people say, well, it's so overwhelming. When will it end? When will we just be free and liberated and live in the purity of divine love? So the cycles of integration also have to do with us needing to be here. For, like I said, for those who still have not yet reached a certain light quotient where they can be in the ascended, fearless mode of their sovereign self. So I recently got this card, which we're going to read later because I'm going to do some oracles. But it was about raising our immunity, and that was exactly after I wrote that public announcement and post. I was shown that this is very much similar when that darkness or when that opposition tries to infiltrate, however ugly or nasty it gets for you, and you say, oh, I don't want to be a part of that, or it's too heavy, oh, I don't want this. It will be allowed to the extent that it evokes a new state of evolution within your physical embodiment, which is the same, very similar to the immunity that is created through the infiltration of the virus in your body. So when the virus enters the body, it will bring in a new system. It will help to integrate a new system of how the body functions and responds to certain things. So it will leave then when it's no longer serving a purpose. Just leave the system on its own without you trying so hard or taking antibiotics. If you feel you have to, if that's a belief, then you will do it. But the thing is, it's a natural process when you trust it. And infiltrations that are occurring now and this strong harassment and whatever is going on, in spite of the ultimate protection, they happen only when allowed for the experience of integration. When there's something that will either make us individually stronger or stronger as a group, or sometimes there are tests. Okay, so the higher perspective on this is one thing, but then, like I said, the human heart, how we approach this as humans, how we generate more love, how we come together. You know, it's like when we say, well, natural disaster happened and then people started to come together. It was partially, you know, creating an experience that that group needed at that time and where to be and how to respond. So what to do in a grounded, physically embodied state of compassion in any sort of situation. Because sometimes when you share, you will feel their compassion, and sometimes people are just going to say, well, don't you know this, or don't you watch those videos, or, you know, don't you do this, or don't you just do protection? Well, wait a minute, I know my basic stuff. You don't know what I'm doing. You know, just, we're not sharing for the purpose of getting advice, and sometimes people think that we're sharing because there's an essence of that that needs to come through, and it's sharing and putting in the group, not for the purpose of, now I need feedback, please give me feedback, I need it, but it's just for the sharing itself, because it brings us closer into our human compassion integration, which is what a lot of people in the so-called light communities miss out on, because everyone wants to share their own piece of the puzzle and their own kind of opinion. This is not about opinions, because opinions are still a state of living through beliefs. When you live through essence, when you live through your soul, it will cause a greater introspective within you. So when someone shares something, it will be as an instant mirror guiding you deeper into yourself and integrating that presence. So yes, the higher perspective is one thing, but then it's about what's really taking place. So I wanted to set the ground, and I really wanted to say certain things that are not pleasant. When this started actually occurring, I had a session with a beautiful being, and she actually shared with me that her daughter was violated and she was beaten by another girl. And she said she's being bullied, and that was the word, was bullied. And I said, wait a minute, because at the same time I was being bullied online. And it was very interesting, because that was like a gateway was opened into this theme. And when we're experiencing these themes, like I said, they're happening at the collective level. And a lot of us are here who are witnessing this, who are messengers, who are guideposts, signposts. And then there's people who are having a tremendous challenge with seemingly how to overcome this. It's not so much about how to overcome it, it's more about getting smarter about it. Because even things that feel like pressure at certain time, they will be detours that help to guide us on a new path, on a new way of being. Okay, so like that person said, well, now I'm going to do homeschooling. That's just one example. Whatever it is, in my own example, the message was to increase my level of privacy. So I had to put my Instagram on private. I had to put my Facebook profile on private, everything like that, because it just got more and more intense. Because the level of being exposed, those of you who don't do this work, you don't know. We take brave leaps of faith every day, not knowing. And when Patricia said in her video, she said, I don't care, you know, even if someone approaches me one day, if my time to go is coming, I'm going to say thank you. And that's true, that's true fearless courage. So at that time, right, when that started to come through first, I experienced a few very violent dreams, which I haven't had before. And one of the dreams, I have to share this with you, it was really frightening. You know, if you don't have the understanding, and if you don't understand sometimes these lower astral planes and what's happening, I've talked about dream walkers before, the things we witness and experience to bring to the surface of the light. In one of these dreams, it was this man who was a killing machine. he had this gun, and there was these beautiful animals, and he just started shooting them, and we were in a house, and we couldn't do anything. We're like, what's happening? It was just every single one of those animals, and we got really afraid. But then, and then the next moment, I remember in the dream, me and two other women, we were trying to kind of put that being down, and we had these weapons or something, and we just wanted to, I don't know, we wanted to eliminate that being, but it couldn't. The being just couldn't die. It couldn't die. It was like three women were not enough. You know, we're like just punching him, and the being was, it was like robotic. And then I wake up, and that's the word. It was, oh, it was artificial intelligence, right? So then later on, I had more of these dreams, and one of them I saw again a man like this shooting a child in the back. It was terrible. I'm sorry. I need to say those things because it's really important. Because as you know, things are happening in schools, these shootings and hoaxes, and it's all rigged in a way to cause this separation and fear within us. Um, Even someone else, a friend said as a comment, she said, I had weird dreams about men in black coming to be undressed in the light, right? And tonight I had a dream about my computer being fully hacked. I wanted to go on my computer, but it started doing things. It's like someone else is on it, and I didn't have control over my own computer. I was like, what's happening, you know? And then I had this web camera, and I saw it just zooming my whole space. It just viewed my entire surroundings, and I saw this entity, and I said, I'm gonna Facebook call them, and I called them, and they didn't want to share anything. They were like, totally, you know, I'm not saying anything. I said, I know who you are. I said, please give me the answer. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? He said, I'll call you back. I said, you're never going to call me back. And then he hung up. Um, so what happens is it's all one synchronicity after the other. The next day, I see a video that's actually an old video of an astrologer that was called the Nessus. Nessus is a celestial body, and it's about the abuse, and the title was the abuse themes, and it was about the certain point and in the United States what's happening, and I think it has a lot to do, she mentioned as well, the online surveillance, and she also mentioned Snowden. If you haven't watched the movie Snowden, please watch it. It's a super cool movie. I really like it. But what started to happen, and people started to report a lot, is that my friend has told me that a lot of YouTube channels are being put down. Facebook bans are happening. You know, I was asking myself, well, who's in charge of the content management display? Like, people subscribe to certain topics. You believe, well, I subscribe to this, I'm going to get this. Not always. I saw, I was shown through spirit that my content is very filtered. So if people don't directly click on it, they're not going to see it. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. Well, what else can we do? Well, it's a platform. It serves us to share our messages, but it's also heavily controlled. So if things are not in threat or in danger, sometimes people even report about their videos not going through for a certain reason. It's like, what's happening? Why are they being banned? I didn't say anything. So who really manages the content display? Because you know, let's say Google functions on certain algorithms. Who writes those algorithms? Did you ask yourself this question? So if sometimes certain things, I'm not saying all of them, because certain things are good and they might have, I don't know, very many views, but certain times the content will be heavily filtered. So it's something that will lead me into talking about in this next part, how this scheme of control through the dark it actually operates, because there's many levels and layers, and people say, well, it's not important for me, I can just see it's where it's coming from, that it's not of the light, and it's enough for me. That's okay. If you feel on your path that is enough, that is absolutely right for you. Okay, because no one wants to tell you how much you need to know, because certain things are not for everyone to know. So I'm not gonna give you this whole thing, because if you want, you can read a lot of books about it. It's out there. I think David Wilcock, he exposed a lot of that as well. But I want to say that there's many different things, various experiences that we can have and how they operate. So the first thing to ask is, who is being targeted? Because some people even don't know what's happening. But these targets are happening on people who we kind of say too much. We say things that will help people to really liberate themselves. Or we're a threat in some way or form. So because of that, there's different strategic markers or plans, operational plans, directives, let's call them directives through how to work. So one example would be when people say, I'm having a psychic attack. So it's when, and I'm not saying all entities, not all entities are, lower dark entities. Certain entities are spirit beings that have not yet fully moved into where they need to go. So they're kind of sticking, they're remaining, they haven't integrated. They're parts, sometimes even of soul's own individual fragments. But when these psychic attacks from the lower, happen to people and they experience them, they literally see beings or they experience these, what they call attacks. That's one way. It might be more personal and they might prevent people who are maybe in more beginner levels before they start embracing their sovereign self and their mastery. And then if there's psychological warfare, which happens through a lot of programming and putting things out there, things that are operating through fear. So we're shown something and we're like, oh, that's scary, or ooh, that's bad. So it's kind of influencing our psychology to a certain degree. Then we have physical setbacks, even in your daily life. Sometimes you're like, why is this not going? People say, oh, divine intervention for the good. Sometimes, but again, you have to be really smart. It's not always within the light. Not everything is a part of this. It's a game, it's a play. Until the polarity game is going to happen on the earth, we're all going to experience that either way. I remember my mother told me the story of my own birth. It was 3 times when, even later, she didn't know back then, but later it was shared that many things were set in motion so that my birth wouldn't even occur, that it couldn't even happen even before I was born. There were so many setbacks, and I don't want to go into it. But even before I came to this planet, I was I was already being harassed. I'm like, hey guys, can I at least be born first, please? And then you can start, just give me a while. No, there is no such thing. It's like the moment you have your agreement with Earth, you become a part of Earth. That's it. That's how the games go here. So then there's threats, online trolling. Those are, we all know online trolls. Basically now everyone can be, like I said, harassed online through this targeting. Troll attacks are usually targeted, sometimes not. Sometimes it's random comments, sometimes it's targeted. They go on a certain being, very specific. So the dark can target directly through these systems, or they can also act through mentally unstable, currently mentally unstable or fragmented individuals. Either through lower astral entities, or we all know the MK Ultra program. Everyone knows about it, but still, even though people know about it, we don't want to see when, there's something right there in your face. It's like we talk about theory, but when something is an application, we're like, oh, that's not a part, that must not be, let's rather be enjoying the beautiful display of light work, it's not always, sometimes it's the false light. So, yes, through mentally unstable individuals. So they will start attacking you because they have an entity that's actually attacking you through them. This is what's happening to many people as well. So these lower astral entities kind of have a co-host relationship with that being. And there's many different relationships, and that's why Patricia said, before we understand the relationship between that being and the agreement they have with the entity, we can't just say, I'm going to take things in my hands and just do that. The best thing we can do is to become sovereign so that whatever is maybe sent through us will not influence our own path, our own freedom, our own state of liberation. So we have to watch for not doing things personally, even ourselves, that would attract such a connection with, let's say, ooh, and now I'm being targeted for these entities. Whatever people overly drink, people who smoke a lot, people who take any kinds of drugs, it's all creating tiny loopholes in the system, how light infiltrates through your body. And recently a friend has shared with me that when she went to a psychic healer, she was working with a certain aggressor, and she said something in the brain, there was like these holes through which these entities could then function, even though the person wanted to be, working for the light, but there was it was a part of the experience and what made him unwell. Many times this is the case. So yes, if we don't watch ourselves and the level of pure frequency, and always aiming for the highest good, to create sacred space and be in the benevolence of beings who serve unity consciousness, it's very important. But that's not a guarantee. Like I said, if it's a part of our experience to help, to assist, we're also going to experience that. because now for us to assist and spread the messages, the only thing we have is the platform now. These platforms are all controlled. If one day we develop a platform ourselves, which is not controlled, then we're going to create a new breakthrough. But so far, I think there's a reason why this is happening, because it teaches a lot of people that stuff is real, that these things exist, and that we have nothing to be afraid of. Like Patricia said, she said, to hell with it, I'm living my life to the fullest now. So there's no other way but for you to do your mission. So yes, when these attacks are internal instead of external, that means that it will come through you. Sometimes people might experience shift because all of a sudden they're going to start to have very heavy thoughts or depressing thoughts or suicidal thoughts. Things like that. It's very important. So my friend, because literally recently sent me about these trolls, online trolls, a sentence I need to read you because not a lot of people know that. And again, I hope I don't get banned for this. But he said, I've heard that these trolls and the contractors, right, are very well paid for what they do, but they obviously care less about the harm they're doing. Yeah. So a lot is happening, unfortunately, as of yet. So now I want to give you my example very much in plain and short before we move on to some of the experiences or comments from other people. But my example was that it was very interesting because it started to grow. It's like you set a fire, you set a little tiny spark, and then it becomes the whole fire, right? That's why I was just observing it for a while to see where it's going to go, and I didn't want to talk about it. But then it got to a certain point when it started to get really out of control, and I said, you know what the heck? Just screw it. I'm going to talk about it because, it's not about I'm not being responsive, I'm not being reactive, but it's about addressing the things. And when you do, and maybe there's people who have less courage to confront that, and it's happening to them, and this is why I'm doing this. So even if it happens after that, the people will know how and why this is happening, because the moment you see it and you see through it, that's when you get smarter. It doesn't have a control, and maybe it's going to go to its plan C or D or whatever kind of, it's on the next list. But it will have to do that because we've broken through another code. We're cracking these codes. I've talked about this before. So in my example was, at first I started to get this insults on Instagram, right? And they were just personal ones. All of a sudden, right? This profile, which was a fake profile, it didn't even exist. It was an empty profile. Just started, talking badly about me, how ugly I am, things like how stupid I am, I'm fake, whatever. And it was just funny to me. I didn't even pay attention to it, right? But the thing was, it was hard to close it down because it was like this trick was used, so I couldn't delete the comments. It was stupid. But then I said, you know what? I'm just gonna put my Instagram to private, and I think that's what really set them off. And then because Facebook pages are public, it started to happen there, right? So when I started to meditate on it, this is the word I got, was arguments, argumentative. That's what the energy that we're trying to bring through. And when I didn't crack myself, because I can't, I might be like, what the heck's happening? And I go into, and I meditate, and I do all kinds of sessions. But I don't react. I never react to things because I just live in peaceful state. So then I saw that if they can break me, they're going to try to break others. And this is when they said, we're going to start sending other people about you and who you are. And I'm like, what? What are you going to send? And then I started getting, because first it was insults, right? Then it was like attacks. And then it got worse and worse. And then I got threats. It was threats about my mother dying. I was like, what? It was really, for me, it was juvenile, but at the same time, it was very vulgar. And all these curse and, like words of profanity language. And each time it was a different user, empty user account. It doesn't even exist. It was just threatening me, like, yeah, there's so many of us now. You're going to see, you're going to go down, like, what? Okay, it's like, what? Who would do that, And so we're going to start sending everybody. I said, okay. I thought to myself, you can't respond to these people because it's always a blocked account. But the thing is, even if I wanted to, I didn't. Hi, whoever it is. I thought, well, you know what? I really don't care. I couldn't care less. But then I was guided at a certain point to share. And that's when it got really, really like, because people were so loving and people were so supportive. And even people who got messages from these different profiles, which were just fake profiles, people said, I was just laughing when I got this. As people said, I just put it in delete folder. Probably some people fell for it because people are at different levels of awareness, and I bless everyone. But I'm saying is it's exactly what they want. And that always reminds me every single time about what I read years back in the Aquarian Gospel in Jesus's initiations, when he was in that chamber locked down. It was one of the initiations for divine trust. And he was supposed to have this few days of solitude, whatever, there in this cell. And then a few priests came and said, come on, we're supposed to bring you out. We're going to help to rescue you because the main priest has set up a plot against you and they're actually going to do this and that to you. So come with us. And he said, no, because I won't trust the words of fellow men. I will trust the voice of my Father, which means my spirit, and what's telling me through my heart. And he didn't go, and he passed the test because it was just a test, whether you listen to gossip and what people are saying, whether you stay true to you. And that's when Spirit told me, it said, whatever they say to you, it's your responsibility, how you respond, react, whatever to it. But then when it's sent to other people, it's no longer your test. Then it's theirs. It's their responsibility. So in my conscious summoning to everyone was just these words. We are consciously responsible for how we respond to those notions, to those provocations or threats or spreading lies and gossips. And, nowadays anyone can make things up online. They can write things and just send them. And it's like, whether you believe it or not. And I remember years back was happening, but not at the extent that's happening now. But years back, I remember I had a Facebook friend and we were writing beautiful letters. All of a sudden she says to me, why did you say this about me? It was something about her playing crystal balls. She said, you said that my crystal ball playing sucks. I'm like, what? Why would I even say that? We're friends. She said, you said it. I know you did. I'm like, she never even asked me. And that's the problem with human belief system is we don't even question things. You don't even put things to the test. You just assume. And the moment you assume, you function through the consciousness of the beliefs. We're going to go through that chart very soon. But for me, it was funny in a way, but at the same time, it wasn't, because there was threats added as well. And one of the stories, I need to share this with you, how they operate was just, I couldn't believe it. I was like, how on earth did they, of all the examples, they could say your work sucks. You say, okay, my work, but my personal life, because to be honest, no one knows anything about personal life, the way I live. And those who do already do, because everyone does, because I share so publicly. All my pictures are out there, where I go, which mountain I hike. I live basically a mountain-based yogic life. I don't go out, I don't do things, I just do that. I just channel information all the time and I share it and I talk to people and I help people in sessions, and that's it. And I love nature, and it's funny. So they said, oh, we have all those details about you we're going to send into everyone. I said, what details about me? There are no details about me. And whatever it is, it's made up. And if it is details, it's about the fact that those who are in control of these platforms online have details about everyone. Watch the movie with Tom Hanks and Emma Stone, being surveilled and being public, and Big Brother watching you. So if they do have it, they have it about everyone, not just me. So they can make them into their own story, yeah, but that's about it. So I have to tell you this because it's so funny, because the main comment that was coming through was always the same, was always like, you killed your dog. And I was laughing because it's like, what? I was like, first of all, I never had a dog. My mother had a dog because I bought that dog for her coming birthday. Because at that time she was going through a really tough life situation. And she said, maybe what I could try like this. She was alone a lot. And I said, well, of course. Do you want it? She said, okay, yes. And I bought her a dog. And she had a dog. But what happened next is she couldn't assume that prior to the situation is she broke her hand. She fell on her hand. But the dog was really jumpy and skippy and all of it. And she just couldn't handle it. And she was crying. She said, I don't know what to do. And the funny thing happened, because everything is divine synchronicity and the way we live our life. Our cousin called, and she lives, our grandma, our aunt, the cousins, and her children. She has 3 kids. they live together in one house. And she said, my kids keep telling me they want a dog, but I don't have money for it because, you know, long story. And my mother said, well, we have a dog and I can no longer be his responsible one. I said, I'm never going to have a dog. Sorry. It's what I do. I do Ascension pioneers all the time. And she said, well, let's try it out. And they came, the moment they came, they fell in love with the dog. They took it with them. The dog's still happy. You know, the kids are happy with the dog. They got their best wish come true for free. And what they started to write to, everyone was like, she killed her dog by feeding him vegan food. I'm like, oh my gosh. It's just stupid to me. I mean, they tried to provoke me about talking about it. I did not want to talk about it until now because it is that stupid. Sorry, it is that insane what this fragmentation or fragmented consciousness does. I mean, I can't believe. So whenever you are being talked about, means you're talked about for a reason. And when someone else, when you're receiving about someone who's being talked about, remember this quote from this one of my favorite quotes from Eleanor Roosevelt. Roosevelt? I don't know. She said, great minds discuss ideas. Average minds discuss events. Small minds discuss people. That's what I want to say because it's so important. So anything about my life, my private life, has nothing to do with my work. It's nothing to do with my sharing. It's my life. It's called mine for a reason. All the rest is just assumption and opinion. So even when people say, well, about your mission, don't do that, don't say this, or act like this, more like this, it's like no one knows you. It is between you and spirit. Your mission is your own. So like I said before, that even when we just recommend things or we assume things, it is a form of opinion, which means we function at the belief consciousness level. Then we're trying to enforce something. That's a little higher extent of pushing. Then it's infiltrating, then it's argumenting through something, then it's pushing for something, and then you get an agenda, and then it all serves this agenda. So Spirit said to me, it's about how we are responding at this time. This is not so much the bigger picture about what they're doing, how they're doing it. It always was how we respond to it. But this time is not so much as, you know, I had stalkers before physically coming here. And again, it was the person who heard voices in their head. Guess what that is? We talked about how they, you know, work with people who are schizophrenic or mentally ill, who haven't done the integration work. And, you know, because the person just knew where I live and I have no data where I live. Well, what force sent him here? Who knows where I live? Who has all the contact data about me? The same ones that have contact data about everyone. That's so pure light as a day. So when anyone knows facts or things about you, ask yourself, who have I shared this information with actually? So really be discerning, okay? Because not sometimes it's something you really shared, but it's just there because it's all of what we are. It's like the last stage is like microchipping, or artificial intelligence is like the last step. So this time it is more about how we respond as a group, how we come together as a group, because I've been working with my group of beautiful people who have been, you know, just following what I do and what I share. And these people are connected with the heart because they feel what I share. They feel the essence. They don't just go with the mind telling them what I should be, you know, having as an impact on their life. When the heart feels, the vibration of feeling, that's why my Ascension update for March was about the essence of feeling. Because when the heart feels, nothing can come in between. So this is like, I was seeing a very strong challenge for the people who are maybe still processing through for the mind. And again, we're not responsible for it, but we can share these messages that for you to really be in your mastery, in your sovereignty, you have to tune into the essence of what the heart feels. So as a sovereign, it is for us, up to us to not allow others to choose for us through their conscious perceptions or subconscious or projections. So how I respond is my responsibility, but then how others do it no longer is. But we can just share with each other neutrally in love. So in truth, no one knows our path or mission. No one can say anything about us. No one can stop the light from sharing itself, from beaming, from just being itself. And I was really, really happy when some people said, well, I got these messages about you. I was like, it's laughable. Someone said it's laughable. Someone would say such things because it's obvious, you know, what I share and what's the purpose of it. And why would I do this sharing so many, most of my content is shared unconditionally and freely with everyone, except for certain courses they really go deeper into the initiation on multidimensional consciousness. But, why would you do that with such courage if you were not driven by love? So the first thing I did when it got really intense, I actually wrote to a psychic healer that I know. And basically, I didn't say much. I just said, well, here's the situation. She can just have her own contribution. And this is what she wrote. She said, I understand about the attack you are receiving, and I will say this. The darkness is playing hard to distract you at the moment, and it's important to stay focused on your work and what you are here for. This pulling away of your energy from your path is simply a game. So when people do this to you, simply say, thank you for your opinion, because that's all it is. It is an opinion. Stay clear, stay strong, and stay in the light. So I want to now share what's in this picture. Let me find it. Someone sent me this beautiful material. It's about the realm of the realm of intangible and the realm of opinion. And the realm of intangible is about knowing. And it says, confirming an experience that intellectual intuition has its origin in mind, with a capital M, itself. There are no use of images, only ideas, ending with the ideal. Then you have different levels in the realm of opinion. We have image, belief, and understanding. So the image is paintings of, here's an example of Athena and Zeus. There's an images of man-made objects. The belief part is the legend of Athena, Zeus taken as true, man-made belief about objects. Then we have a realm of understanding, which is Athena, intuition springs from the divine mind of Zeus. And then we have assumptions from, assumptions as an image and assumptions about AB. Okay, I don't know what that means. Okay, so it is the realm of opinion is visibility to objects of sight and the power of seeing. But when you operate with the realm of intangible, which is the essence, I would call it the realm of essence, it's the realm of pure knowing. So you don't need proof or stimulation, like let's say someone tells you something, but you feel the essence, you feel the vibration. So let's say someone would mock someone and write badly about someone, you would, when you're being focused on centered in love and light, you would instantly know that the light does not express through such hate. It's just not a possibility at all. That was really beautiful. Okay, so this is what I will read you from what this person also sent me when I shared my example. She said, I've been studying ancient philosophy and Diotima. There is not much writing about it. Socrates, Hypatia, and all masses of society eventually turn against them through mobilized clusters of beliefs and ignorance. It has been a real threat, and it is for those who do the work of truth. That's why we're being targeted right now. The kind of state of mind of a light worker is irreconcilable with the individual who identifies themselves with ignorance, belief, or the many that live through the lenses of ignorance and belief. And from my experience, turning towards those states of mind and seeing through them with compassion and understanding in how they function and carefully reflect how to respond, understanding is love, and who is gripped by ignorance beliefs may want love too desperately, and so to wonder if this is love, in a profoundly distorted disguise, and by, in this case, intensely pursuing the object of their desire. When the capacity of self-reflection is not there, then the individual has embodied the unworked states of mind, the fragmented mind. Plato describes leaps in consciousness from ignorance, belief, understanding, and knowing. I've shared this with you before, and then it's wisdom. From wisdom, one can see into how the other states of mind function, but from ignorance, which is being acted out, or belief, negative or positive, exactly, when you're in the belief, you always like filtering, right? Cannot be seen into understanding, knowing, or wisdom. The awakening had not yet happened. The person or individuals have not reached the level of understanding that they have access to a conscious awareness. They're in the grips of their ignorance, beliefs, actionable through intense desire. You see, Plato also describes the soul made of desire, reason, and spirit. So yes, there is distortion here and identification with that state of mind they operate through. It is incredibly sad and traumatic, and it desperately seeks to be loved. Fear not. And I know you do not, and bring forth that which can be of benefit from this painful force of unconsciousness seeking to intrude in your beauteous world. And let not your heart be hardened, equanimity onwards. And yeah, that's when the diagram, the image comes. Okay. That's cool. That was beautifully written, right? I was so thankful for this individual contributing to our video. So then I wrote some of the responses from people that I got when I shared my example. You know, no one knows because the comments are not public that I have. They're actually hidden. So I have to unhide or approve the comments so people don't know, because they don't see the comments. The only thing people see is when they're getting messages, because they went through my Facebook page, the profile, you know, all the followers, and just choosing all of them. It's like, wow, that's a project. I said, who has time for all of this? And the funny thing that I noticed is they were doing it every time at the same hour, which is when I sleep. I'm like, that's handy. Why is it like this? They must know a lot about this as well. It's like, it's not a coincidence. Every day at the same hour. It was every day at the same hour. So someone also got the message. I just ignored it and pushed it aside. I know what my heart said, and I'll say, keep it up. You're rocking this world. I send you my love and support. Someone said, a few days ago, someone contacted me to warn me for you, trying to convince me who you really are and saying things about your private life. I ignored. I didn't even remove the comment. It may sound weird, but I didn't give it one moment of attention, not even a judgment or call it dark or bad. It is what it is. That's a beautiful conclusion. Don't make it important or even give it attention, because it's just a big illusion. Fear is what keeps us separate, and in essence, we are all love. Not all acts are of love. There's a difference. In essence, we are love. Those who are living soul essence, you know. But not all human acts are of love. That's the difference. And this is when my friend wrote to me for the first time when I shared. He said, you can rest assured that this isn't just coming from some insane fanatic or follower who's green with envy. This is an orchestrated attack by the dark side in an effort to dampen your internal flame. They have direct access to Google, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, with all the technical know-how and means to infiltrate anyone's accounts. I know this firsthand because they do similar things to me all the time. They have even infiltrated my real Facebook friends' instant messaging accounts and sent me false messages using their names. I caught them doing this once and set them up with a trick question about the real person that they got completely wrong. I called them out, and their response was F you as I don't want to say those words. It was followed by LOL. And my trolling, they constantly write LOL as well. It's like, what? Yeah, LOL, back at you. Yep, I knew in time your love and light emanations would eventually draw their attention. Oh, how I'd love to give them a piece of my mind. My friend's hilarious. I keep my inner fire in check, but it's always there when I need it. I could go on and on about things they're doing to me, but I realize that in the long run, it's not conductive or helpful in this situation. One thing for certain is that these dark souls are in a state of utter chaos right now, and again, not the soul itself, but the fragments of the soul. And they realize there's not a damn thing they can do to prevent the mass awakening and divine intervention of which you're playing a very important part. Well, thank you. I think I am. I have to. That's the guidance. So someone also said, oh, it's the same friend who said later on, because all at the same time that was happening. He got a message about a Facebook friend being gang stalked, as some call it. They're out in full force like never before because their illusion house of cards is collapsing all around them. After the latest school shooting drill hoax, which just happened, they are taking down truth videos and giving people strikes like never before. It just shows us that they're in chaos mode as the masses are finally beginning to awaken. They might be irritatingly persistent, but there's nothing they can do to dim our light and love. Then someone said, I'm experiencing the same, though it's not only coming through physical beings, what I'm dealing with. The experiences the last weeks have been very intense. There is much shadow darkness coming forward at this time because the level of light is speaking collectively, hence, the darkness gets more visible than ever. That is true. There is nowhere to hide anymore, and at the same time, it is sort of a struggle for survival that makes them attack the lightworkers at this time. These beings do not think they can enter or survive in the light, but some of these entities are ready to be helped into the light at this time. Again, applying the principle of the highest good. I understand the frustration, and it's very much like the message I shared. And thank you for making people aware of what is going on at the moment. Love and light. Remember, someone wrote, sorry, I've been talking for a really long time here. Oh, I forgot. I have so many items here, but I forgot the water. I wish I could just drink my liquid crystal. Oh my gosh, I'm thirsty. So remember that we have come so far and we're now in our higher state of heart being. I can relate to the others who only know how to track attention at a lower vibration. This is a gift, as this makes us stronger with this knowing that they are simply a distraction. Let them be and or send them love, for they are us without their heart. Huge shifts in frequency and our mission stand before us. Hold this vision and soon we will be there in a place of peace and love and joy for all of us to embrace, and so it is done. Beautiful, thank you. Thank you for sharing this. I've been thinking of you as myself have gone through all kinds of various attacks, both online and in the physical. Sorry, particularly these last few weeks, although not isolated to this time, but very vamped up nonetheless recently. Yeah. I thought of you because you always seem to shield yourself from this sort of thing and manage to stay in somewhat of an aura or bubble of safety from these attacks, although I know you've had your share of negativity. We all have. Because otherwise, we're pretending we're not existent in this world. It's nice to know we are not alone and that as we increase to new levels and greater capacity of love and light within ourselves and outwards, we attract the darkness that wants to smother our light. What the dark souls fail to realize is that it only makes us shine brighter. We shed more light as there is greater darkness, with your sisters stronger together. And someone said, you're one of the truly pure souls who provide so much knowledge and love. It's laughable that anyone would claim otherwise. I completely support you not giving this any energy. Oops, yeah, I'm there with you. Surrounded, cocooned, and embracing love, someone said, heavenly guided to be around those of the light only and let those of darkness go their own way, honoring and respecting their choices. We're too attuned and sensitive to do anything but be with those of love and light. So people who are not falling for these tricks are people who feel at the essence level. And it was funny to me because they kept provoking me, right, with how little views I have and things. I'm like, I'm not doing this to get followers or views. If I did that, I would quit a long time ago because, I know my videos are not mainstream, but that's what I love about my work, because it's kind of like it's public and yet it's just the right amount of staying behind the scenes, which I love. I don't want this to get too much attention because obviously the world is still in this whirlwind of people still getting overwhelmed, and it's for some people it's too much. Okay. So it's really important. And someone else, my friend, wrote me on Instagram. She said, when I got this message, I was like, my God, this is ridiculous. She said, you helped me so much on my path of embracing ascension and self-mastery. So when people feel the essence, I felt like how they wanted to prevent the people they really love, not just my work, but me as well. It's we're all together with love. That's the basic reason. And in unionship and friendship and companionship of the soul. It's like I could really feel how they hate that, how they want to create this rift, so that what I share would not be available to people because they had like a disbelief about me. And if that happens, it's a shame, and if it does, like I said, it's not my responsibility, and I can only wish everyone the best because everyone gets informed in a certain way. But it's important that we get informed the right way this time. So, in the end, I would like to say what the heart of love has put together, nothing or no one can separate, and that's truth. So it's very important for us to use protection, the golden white light. You can put yourself in the bubble because that's the Christed light. And then, of course, working with the violet fire, with the violet flame of the blazing light of transmutation, transfiguration. But it's very important, Spirit shared with me recently, don't just send it like through yourself. Send it to all, to everyone. Even if you think, well, that's a troll, or that's just, I wouldn't do that to this person. it's still important that we embrace unity concept through everything. Okay, so this week I will really try to come live on Facebook. I can't yet give you the day or date or hour because I don't know. My time is always so flexible, you know, so fluctuating. But I want to do a live Facebook meditation with setting the highest intention, and I want us to come together really as a group to really create a higher essence of not just self-protection, but like a group community protection. Okay, my beloveds, live your missions fearlessly. And now I want to read you this beautiful card I got. No, first this one. Priorities. This was the one I got during that time. It was so beautiful. It's called The Sacred Journey. There is wisdom in knowing that even darkness serves its purpose in the growth of the soul. That is by Nari. Darkness need not be feared, but simply understood. Darkness is a misunderstood energy which causes so much emotional distress and disharmony around the world, as it is seen as something that is separate to the divine. Most often, it is seen as something that needs to be avoided and battled. Darkness too serves its purpose. Through darkness, we come to see the light that it is in us. We expand our conscious understanding through first walking in the shadows of our soul. The more you ignore, push away, and avoid darkness, the more it is attracted to your space. It is only through love and understanding of the true nature of darkness, embracing its role, and having gratitude for the lessons it teaches us, that we're able to transcend its karmic wheel. Only then do we break free from its cyclic challenges that triggered the soul through its many faces and forms. Darkness is here to help us find our way back into our heart. We are all one, good, evil, dark, light, and the many other labels mankind has used to separate this energy that is one. Do not fear the shadows within or outside you, but simply observe the dance of life that is occurring all around you. See the lessons that unfold from the dark periods in your life, understand their meaning and purpose. When you can transcend this illusion of separateness and judgment of all that is seen as dark, you transcend the illusion of suffering. The more you walk this journey with understanding and clarity, the more at peace you are with this world. You are then ready to enter realms of higher consciousness and increased light, which is the part of our ultimate journey of cosmic union. The affirmation is, I am triumphant in knowing that even darkness serves its purpose in the fruition of the soul. And the chakra associated solar plexus, we receive all this information, you know, from solar plexus about the nature of certain things. So this is also a very important point of discernment. And this is what I got after this when I shared with my community. This was the immunity card from a beautiful Return to Spirit guidebook deck from Cheryl Lee Hernish. And this one is Cosmic Reading Oracle cards, okay? So the immunity card comes when we're feeling as though we're under attack. You may be experiencing disagreements or arguments. That was the word coming through, right? Arguments. Perhaps you're feeling belittled, unworthy, or misunderstood. Whatever the case may be, there is a feeling of the need to protect yourself. Sometimes these feelings may not even involve an individual person, but are perceived from the world at large. Yes, this is what's happening now. It's a much bigger picture. It is important that you stay grounded at this time and not fall into old patterns of behaviors or reactions. This is an opportunity to deal with your feelings and the situation in a healthier way. You are not responsible for what others say, think, believe, or feel. You do not have to own it or try to fix or change anything in an attempt to appease them. Every person on this planet is responsible for their own behavior. So we can't really make things go away or stop them, because it's like, it's not about control. It's about developing internally the qualities of illumination within ourselves, personally and as a group collective, so that we can shine a light upon this planet. The immunity card offers you a layer of protection from the negative energy surrounding the situation so that you can respond and take action in a positive manner. This also helps you to see the bigger picture and how to resolve the matter in a way that ensures the highest good for all involved. Just as your physical body builds its immune system, that's when I talk about the viruses. Energetically, you are building a healthy response system to negative experiences and people, so that at the end, we really are immune to these things because we don't see them like, oh, it's a threat. You know, they might be threats, but it's not a threat to you. So that's a difference. So yes, you will not be affected in the same way should this type of situation occur again in the future. Yes, because you've already integrated this new way of your protectedness or your centeredness. And this is why I want to do the live meditation. So just as your physical body builds its immune system, we can now, like I said, we can adjust. It's like we're adapting, we're shape-shifting. That was also the word I got, shapeshifter archetype. So you will gain a healthy form of protection on the inside and no longer need to energetically wear a shell of protection on the outside, because it's an integration of that higher level of that. So those around you will feel the shift in your energy as you become more accepting and open to letting others into your personal world. And I think that's a beautiful completion, and I want to raise this beautiful doggy. Not a doggy. I'm not a doggy. I'm a newbie. So okay, a newbie's fine. Just gonna hold it up here. Hope it doesn't break. It's really fragile. So I'm gonna send a really beautiful intention, and may it reach you at your best, highest expression that's meant for you, to reinforce your own state of protection, centeredness, divine grace, illumination, so that nothing from the outside can penetrate the sacredness of your space, your inner magic, your divine bubble of love, because you are a divine lover of life. And that you may wear this lightheartedness no matter what the outside or external circumstances may appear to be, because not all that is real is really real. So as we know, fear, the illusion of falsehood appearing real, we're rather centering on that which truly is real, and that which is a focus on love, on truth, becoming a state of our wisdom. And again, I will say, what the heart of love has put together, nothing and no one can separate. And blessings to all, even those who still perhaps are experiencing these illusions and who are being kind of sucked and pulled into it. When we do any kind of prayer work, don't just do that for yourself. Always send that intention for the group, that they may all come into a state of clarity, a state of cosmic transcendence in the light. And as always, so much love, wisdom, and power. I wish you many blessings of the light. Thank you, those of you who've been sharing this feedback. It's not all on the phone. I just got a few. The rest is all on my page and my, on my social media. Awareness media. Bully media now from now on. Just kidding. So be humorous about it as well. Don't let your get yourself sucked into anything, especially those of you who are experiencing when your child is getting into these modes of bullying and attack. That must be one of the, I think, the hardest or heaviest examples, because it's your child and it's still innocent and it hasn't yet developed its own, self-empowerment, and it's still so gentle and beautiful, and you're there as a caretaker, caretaker and caregiver of this beautiful being. And it's really important that you find a connecting space, a shared safe space with people who understand this, who understand you, a safe environment. Sometimes the messages are, this environment is not safe, go to a better one, or, something like that. Because these are times when things will get more and more challenging. I know a lot of people are saying it's all going to get just better and better. Yes, certain things, yes, but certain things will intensify for sure until they really are resolved in the highest way of integration. And remember that a true illumined one always keeps on raising questions to expand the living light of multidimensional consciousness, because a linear state of awareness is just belief, assumptions, opinions. It doesn't get you anywhere. So wherever a soul is, it is, and that's its next level of advancement. But those of you who are tuning into my videos are most definitely old souls, volunteer souls, beautiful luminaries, and I greet you all. Thank you for sharing with me, and thank you for your beautiful feedback when I shared very challenging things. It was not the easiest of experience, but there we are. That's what we sign up for. That's why we're here on Earth at this time. I love you all so much. I'll talk to you again very soon. And, just sit with this video, sit with it for a while until you feel something rises up that's important for you to integrate at this time. Or maybe something you're meant to pass on to someone else who's experiencing any sort of difficulties or challenges. And fear not, here we are. Thank you. Bye-bye.